Jeff Mackler.
I must say that I am impressed with every single one of the last speakers. I compare their political analysis from when I came into the movement 65 years ago fighting the US slaughter in Vietnam, and every one of them had a more sophisticated understanding of the nature of the beast. Let me begin in 1898, when King Leopold of Belgium enslaved the people of the Congo and slaughtered 12 million people in the largest genocide in the history of the world. He ended up with the gold in the Congo and the rubber and the ivory in the Congo, but guess who ended up with the natural resources? Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan, and they still own it today. That tells you about the nature of the beast. The U.S. imperialist monstrosity maintains 1,100 military bases in 110 countries outside of the United States. We are for closing every single one of them. They are up to no good other than the exploitation by monopoly capital of the peoples of the world, and we say, bring them home now. The United States maintains a national security apparatus with 5 million paid, certified, national security certified agents that operate around the world in 13 different agencies, including the CIA. I am for abolishing the entire national security apparatus of this government. The United States rules with open intervention, covert intervention, drone wars, assassination wars, special operation wars, sanction wars, embargo wars, and blockade wars against any dissident nation that chooses to exercise its own self-determination. I say, end it all, bring it all home. In 2014, the United States engineered, financed, and banked a fascist-led coup in Ukraine that overthrew the elected government of that country, abolished the elected parliament, and appointed a majority to the parliament of non-elected fascist leaders, and ordered them on first day to ban the Russian language and march on the eastern Ukraine to slaughter anyone who resisted the coup. And there were people who resisted, and I say more power to them. When Russia invaded Ukraine, it was not before the United States and NATO rebuilt the Ukrainian army and amassed 250,000 troops on the border prepared to slaughter the Russian-speaking people, 14,000 of them who they already murdered in their fascist-led regime. And today there are 1 million Russian-speaking Ukrainian refugees that had to flee to Russia to save their lives. The United States orchestrated the 10-year war, the Iran-Iraq war that killed 2 million people in order to destroy the oil resources of both countries, because the Iranians had the guts to organize a revolution that ended U.S. corporate control of their oil, the richest oil reserves in the world. And when they resisted, the United States orchestrated a 10-year war against both nations, and at that time they used Saddam Hussein as their agent. The United States orchestrated 2 coups in Venezuela. They orchestrated a coup in Bolivia that overthrew the elected government in order to steal the lithium. In Venezuela, they were interested in the second largest oil reserves in the world. They killed 2 million in Afghanistan because they wanted its natural resources. The United States, all of this was done in the interest of finance, monopoly, capitalism, and every single one of these wars was bipartisan, orchestrated by the Democrats and Republicans, who unanimously approved every military budget, including the latest one, all told $1 trillion a year for death and destruction in their bipartisan wars. In Vietnam, they killed 4 million people. And it took a united front, mass action, mobilization in the US and worldwide to bring the troops home now and create a political climate to challenge the capitalist beast. Once again, I say, united front, democratic, mass action is our middle name, and UNAC is the sterling example of it. The United States butchers back the Somoza regime in Nicaragua that slaughtered 50,000 people. They backed the Batista regime in Cuba that killed tens of thousands of people. NATO, the United States, and its allies in the Gulf state monarchy, on trumped-up charges, invaded Libya and reduced one of the most advanced technological countries to abject poverty. In the United States, they tried to organize a coup and killed 500,000 Syrians. 500,000 Syrians, and guess who sits on Syria's oil today? American imperialist corporation. I am for the abolition of the U.S. military. I am for the abolition of NATO. The abolition of Africa. But as National Secretary of my political party, and I'm also the director of the mobilization to free Mumia Abu-Jamal, and I have to say, I've spent 40 years freeing Mumia, a revolutionary framed up by the criminal injustice, racist system that incarcerates more people on this planet than any nation on earth, a higher percentage. Let me be frank. If we are going to challenge this system, we need a movement like we see emerging today, but qualitatively larger, with deep roots in every single struggle. A movement led by the magnificent youth who attended this conference today. An independent movement that is not subordinate to the Democratic and Republican parties. Tragically, that movement for Black Lives Matter went into the Biden campaign only to see him spend additional tens of millions and billions on the cop violence in the United States that murders on average 2 unarmed blacks every single day, and never a police, or rarely ever is a police prosecuted. So I am against any support to all capitalist parties. They are all for profit. They are all supporters of imperialism. They all invent pretexts, as with every country I mentioned, to invade in order to advance the interests of the capitalist monopolies who profit by bleeding the American working class. I am, in addition to a partisan and founder of UNAC's Administrative Committee, an attendee of every UNAC conference. I'm a revolutionary socialist, and we need a socialist revolution to put an end to this sick system. Thank you.